American Songwriter, we had the opportunity to talk to Ricky Ducati. Ricky Ducati is a singer-songwriter and producer based out of Los Angeles, who's been immersed in the pop music scene for a very long time. He recently teamed up with French artist Møme to produce a brand new project called Flashback FM. They did the whole thing remotely. Ricky would produce the tracks from Los Angeles, and Møme would do the vocals and do his part in France. He'll tell you all about that and, of course, the new project, Flashback FM. You can watch the interview with myself and Ricky on our Facebook page and YouTube channel at Bringing It Backwards, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
We'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Ricky Ducati.
So this podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Great.
Cool. And then we'll talk about the new project you have. It's Møme?
It is Møme, as I know it.
Okay.
Yes. It always seems that, well, the French seem to have a little bit of an extra flair on there or something, but I
but
say
you
Møme.
say Møme. Okay, that's all that matters to me. Awesome, Ricky. Well, okay, so tell me about you're in L.A. now, right?
I'm actually in Arizona right now with family for the holiday.
Originally from there?
Originally from Canada.
Wow. Okay, talk to me about that. What part of Canada?
I'm from Alberta, born in Edmonton, Alberta, and then I grew up in Calgary, Alberta.
Okay. Talk to me about how'd you get into music?
It took me a while to actually get into music. My parents were very musical people and songwriters and stuff like that, but I actually didn't take into music until I was maybe 20 or something like that. And then I sort of just fell into it because my younger brother was doing it over the summer as a hobby. So I just picked up a bass guitar just randomly and then started from there.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
you talked about your parents being musicians. Did they like play shows and stuff like that when you were young?
Yeah. So my mom's Indonesian, and she was actually like a pop singer in Indonesia in the 80s.
Right.
So, and her music style was, I don't know if you're familiar with Italo disco, but
No.
it's sort of like pop disco. But it's a little bit more fun, and more like synth based.
Okay.
I didn't understand it at the time what it was, but yeah. So my dad met her there in Indonesia, and then he helped her put out her first album and helped her write it.
Wow. Why did he why was he in Indonesia? Just
He
traveling?
was actually there working, I guess, in oil, I think, and then fell into the songwriting field.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he, how random. So he was out there for something totally different. Meet your mom.
Right. Yeah.
And then they go
then-
back to Canada and then he puts a record out?
They put the record out in Indonesia. When they
Oh.
came back to Canada, they sort of left the music behind there and started a new life. But they would play the music in the house growing up. So, yeah. So
That's
I guess
fascinating.
subconsciously picked up the disco.
Yeah. So you never actually had a chance to see your mom perform?
Never. No. When I did go to Indonesia, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that, and they had this little VHS with her doing a music video, and it was really weird because it was like it's kind of like seeing your mother when they're like 16, and it was really strange. But that was the only thing I saw on video.
That's hilarious. Like, did people like remember her? Like, do you have any like experiences like you're walking down the road and people were like, "Oh my god"?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she was a pretty big deal over there. So it didn't translate over here at all, but yeah, it was surreal, I would say. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, going to another country where you're used to your mom just living everyday life, and then you go to Indonesia and she's some huge star.
Yeah, and then it was funny because when we would come back, she never really wanted to talk about it or bring it up. Maybe there was something that I didn't know about, but yeah, over there, people, I don't know. It was very strange to see a different side of, especially your parents.
Right. How cool. That's really fascinating. Okay, so then when you're being raised and stuff, it wasn't their career path anymore.
No, and they didn't even push music on us at all. They would play it in the house, and that was about it. But like I said, it was just taken up as a hobby. They never pushed it on us. My brother no longer works in music or anything like that, but he was very musical and I was just bored. So I just sort of copied him.
Right.
He's actually a way more technical player, and he's a better musician, I would say, technically, and things like that. I sort of fake it, and sort of know, I guess, how songs should go just by listening. But yeah, it was never my career path ever.
That's interesting.
Until now.
Right, obviously. So your brother was more into music. What you said, you picked up bass at what, like 14?
Yeah, 14, 15. I guess that's middle school, start of high school, something like that. Yeah. And he started the bass guitar, went to guitar, and then once he moved to guitar, he wasn't playing his bass guitar anymore. So I was like, I'll play the bass guitar and we'll play together. So,
oh, did you guys start like a band?
We never, I think we played in a band for a month, but we were completely different styles. So yeah. Didn't work out.
Did he kind of teach you how to play, or since he had the guitar and then moved on?
Yeah, he taught me how to play bass. He set up, I think when I first took the bass in my hand, he put on a Ramones record and he put on a Led Zeppelin record, and he said, "Play till your hands are bleeding." And I did that. I literally did that. And I think that was the best advice I could have gotten at the time, because
That's
you
amazing.
get your fingers, until
Calloused
you can play.
up.
Exactly. And that's why you can play any song. And learning Led Zeppelin songs, especially John Paul Jones, you learn music, you get a head start, I would say. With music.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's impressive. You went that that advanced right away.
Yeah.
Well, Ramones kind of they have more of the 3-4 chord songs.
Right.
When you get into Zeppelin.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why, but like I said, he was a very technical player, and I kind of wanted to be that as well. So yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so from bass, what happened next with your music career?
So after I played in a few bands in high school, sort of dropped the bass guitar. And then funny enough, for Christmas, he got me my first audio program. It was like a Sony, I can't even remember the name of it. It was an old Sony program where you could put together loops.
Cool.
And then, so that summer I spent just messing around with those programs. And then those programs became my instrument. So I did continue playing bass, but I learned the language of MIDI from then.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And then from there, that became how I continued songwriting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny how your brother really kind of paved your musical path, huh?
Talking about it right now, I should thank him.
Yeah, he hooked you up with the bass. He hooked you up with the program.
No, you're right. I never looked at it like that. He totally did. So I owe a lot to my brother.
That's awesome. Yeah. So when you started working with MIDI and doing more of the electronic production side of things, what were you just trying to write like beats, or like how did it translate into songs?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, there was the loop-based program. So I would just sort of put together loops. There was no aim or anything, and just something I like to listen to. And then I uploaded a few of them at the time to MySpace, if you remember MySpace.
Oh, I do.
And it got picked up by a few blogs and stuff like that. Again, I had I was not trying to do anything with it, but at that moment I knew maybe there's something here. And then it got picked up by Pitchfork at the time, which was a big music blog at the time.
That's still massive.
And so I was like, okay, well,
the beat did talk to me about that. Wow. Okay, so you're putting together just like electronic loops with no vocals.
So both. There were some vocals on there at the time, and then again at the time I never sang or anything like that. So I just for sounds, just using the voice as an instrument. But yeah, even at that time I didn't really think I was going to sing or anything. And yeah, so just like 2 or 3 random demos, just putting them up, and got picked up by these blogs. So yeah, but maybe just luck or something like that. So,
but that's awesome. I mean, Pitchfork, even to this day, that's so massive. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was super random. I didn't even know what Pitchfork was at the time. I was told it was cool to be on there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then from there, I thought maybe I'll just go into audio school. So then I was looking at Calgary at the time, shift off to Vancouver, Canada. to join like an audio production school.
Oh, cool.
And then just continued doing loops and stuff like that. And that took me on to the next step of the journey, which would be meeting with like the first producer that I've ever worked with. And yeah.
Okay. So you but you got into the music school, obviously. Did you have to audition?
No, it was sort of, you basically had to do an interview, but it was quite expensive as well. So at the time I just continued making little demos and stuff like that. And I messaged, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Empire of the Sun.
Oh yeah.
Or are you familiar with R. Stevie Moore?
Yes.
Okay, so I was a massive R. Stevie Moore fan.
Okay.
So I followed his MySpace, and then he had a link to Empire of the Sun being like, listen to this song. So I listened to the song and I was like, oh, this is really great. And then I'm sort
what
of
song
like,
was it? Walking on a Dream?
It was We Are the People.
We Are the People, okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like a Wikipedia nerd. So I looked up who wrote that song, who was a part of it, and I found a producer named Donnie Sloan or Jonathan Sloan. And I went to his MySpace page and I messaged him. I really like your work. Just randomly. And then he said, why don't you come over to London and we'll work on a project together.
Wow.
So I was like, sure. So I dropped out of school and just packed my bags, moved to London for, I think, maybe it was like a half a year or something like that. So
oh my gosh, wow, what that's nuts. He actually responded, and obviously he wanted to work with you. That's huge.
Yeah, especially just as a fan, it was cool.
Right. What year was that? If you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, 2012, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, wow. So you caught that, and you were into Empire of the Sun before anyone. Sounds like.
Yeah, it was just kicking off, and yeah, I was tipped off by my idol at the time, R. Stevie Moore. So it all seemed to work perfectly at the time.
That's interesting. Yeah, because that song, when Walking on a Dream made like it came back because it was in like a commercial, I think.
Yeah, in Germany. It took off for like a Volkswagen commercial or something like that.
Yeah.
I think they put it out and it didn't do anything until that ad hit.
It didn't. It did nothing. I've worked in radio forever, and it did nothing.
And
then eight years later, it made this like this new wave. And then they played like Coachella the year that it came out.
Yeah.
And the whole they played one of the tents, I think Safari Tent or something.
Right.
And there was the biggest crowd of the whole the thing. And it's insane.
and then they have that insane show. I mean, did you get a chance to watch the ad?
Oh yeah, they're crazy. And then what's his name? The singer.
Luke Steele.
He always comes out in the big, the most elaborate costumes. And he performs. It's sick.
I won't go too much in because I was pretty close to that. I wasn't super close to that project, but I knew a lot about the people in it, and I'm friends with Nick Littlemore, who's a part of that band as well. There's a lot of funny stories. I'm sorry to tease it, but those people can be pretty crazy.
Oh yeah, when I saw them play, Luke Steele took his guitar and smashed it on the stage, and threw in the crowd and stuff. I was like, this guy's rad.
Yeah, super talented.
That's
extremely
awesome.
Talented.
Yeah. So so you make your way out to London, and were your parents like totally cool with you being like, I'm dropping out of school, I met this producer, and I'm moving to the
So my parents are pretty cool. They never forced me to do anything, or I don't even know if I told them. I think I just went. So
you're like, well, I got a plane ticket. See ya.
Right. Yeah. So and then at the time Empire was really kicking off. So it was cool to see. It was cool to kind of just see a band take off. Like, I didn't even care if I was a part of it or not.
Right.
Kind of cool to just watch that. So at the time, so I just went over. So Johnny, who's the producer, he wrote those songs not for that project. He kind of just wrote them. But he was friends with Nick, who's in the band. They took the songs and then released them without telling him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how much I should get into this, but
I love this.
Yes. So, so at the time, they were not getting along that much because they did that without letting him know. So then he said, okay, well, we'll do this, but you have to give me this much, blah, blah, blah.
I want credit.
Right. So at the time when I first got there, he that was part of his motivation for wanting to start the project, was being like, okay, well, I want my own thing. These guys, they used my music, and became very successful. So then we started our project, which was Midnight to Monaco. And then so we started writing songs for the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I moved to Australia with him, because they're all from Australia, to his hometown, and we like put together a lot of music. He's like the most talented musician I've ever met, still to this day. But I learned a lot how to write music and all, and just being around all that. So then when we finally had enough songs, we eventually got signed to Island Records here in America.
Was that must have been huge?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, because I think we liked the songs, but we didn't know we were going to get signed, especially to a major. And then then we got to go to New York and meet everybody there. That relationship didn't end up being that great in the end. I mean, it ended for the best, like the result, but I don't think they knew exactly what to do with us, because we weren't quite radio enough, but we weren't. They didn't know how to pitch us, basically. So it ended up, John and I just decided, we got dropped by the label, and then John and I decided, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So we just decided to end that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were in Australia at the time.
So once we got signed, we moved to the States. Well, John moved to the States, and then I'm Canadian. So I was kind of like back and forth between Canada and Los Angeles.
Okay. And with that project, did you guys go out and tour it? I mean, if you get signed to Island, like... Yes.
Yeah, so we did go on a tour. They were very specific about how they wanted the live show to look. I don't think we ever like met their vision for that. I guess I'm a little psycho on stage for the major label. Well, I thought so. But yeah, so we did go on one mini tour, the East Coast of the US. And then shortly after is when we parted ways with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, did you start doing solo stuff? Like what happened next?
Yeah. So at that point I had already moved to LA, and wasn't no longer really talking that much to Jono, but I was published by Sony ATV. So at that point, I was like, hey, why don't I just try being a songwriter? So for the next couple of years, I did the whole songwriting loop, I guess you call it, with all the sessions. Artists? Yeah, writing for other artists or just doing sessions.
Did you enjoy that? Or
yeah, it was cool. Mostly just to learn how to write songs, because I would say I never really sat down and did things like in a technical, maybe in the proper way. Just sort of just absorbed information, or just watched how somebody else did it. So that was a good just learning tool. My most successful song to this date came from those sessions. It wasn't a personal song. It was for an artist named Alec Benjamin. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah,
so his songs.
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to land on one of his albums, and it did really well on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So at that time, I thought maybe I'll just do this. And then
what? So you wrote a song that actually made one of his records.
Yeah, it's called Outrunning Karma.
Oh, cool! Wow, yeah. That must have been a big moment. So did you write the song and then find out later, like, this kid Alec Benjamin wants to put it out?
Well, I did the session with him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because at the time he had just been dropped by his major label. So we were both in the same place where and Sony at the time was sort of, I don't know if he was signed to Sony as publishing, but somehow they arranged us to have a writing session together, and we wrote the song together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think he's originally from Arizona too. Is that why you're hanging out in Arizona?
No, but I think he's from Scottsdale, Arizona. Well, we're in Tucson, but anyway.
Okay.
But anyway,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
it is interesting that he is from Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you wrote with him. That's huge. And then so after the songwriting circuit, when did you decide, I want to start doing this again myself?
So I had a writing partner named Danny Murcia. He was another talented musician. He wrote a lot of pop music. I think for like Pitbull and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But he had a very like background band that was it was sort of like Spanish Nirvana.
Interesting.
And he still has that band. It's called El Mañana. It's really good. So he asked me if I wanted to be a part of that band. So we sort of played around the idea of doing a band together. So I started writing songs, and would show them to him, and I realized that my songs were a little bit more pop, or a little bit more disco, or just too different. So I was like, well, I still like these songs. I don't know. Maybe down the road I'll do something with them, but no ambition really to do anything like that. But then, so Midnight did put out a few songs, and that's how I met Møme, or Jeremy.
Okay.
So he did a remix for one of the Midnight songs, which did pretty well in France. And this is during the songwriting era. And they invited me to go to France to go perform this song, because it was doing well. So I went to France, and that's when Møme and I met for the first time. So okay. Yeah, so did that performance. We didn't really connect that much. Like I think we had one dinner, and then we did the performance, and then I went home.
That was it.
It was like a 2-day turnaround, something like that.
Okay.
So
the record you wrote with him, you guys weren't in the room at all, right? At the same time? Okay.
No.
So we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it was called, the song was called Suicide, but they renamed it to Alive. And then, yeah.
That's quite a difference.
Yeah.
It used to be called You Kill Yourself, and now it's called Living.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't get the translation. I don't know. But anyway, so we actually didn't contact each other for a long time. But when I was actually going through my royalties and noticed there might have been an issue with that song in particular, because it had done so well, but I hadn't received enough.
You weren't
for it.
making any money. Yeah.
I was upset.
Sure. Why? No, I would be too.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I emailed him and his label and said, what's going on with this? Can you investigate this? And then Jeremy and I started chatting from there. And then he was like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And I told him, I'm doing these songwriting sessions, but, I don't really know what's happening. He said, well, why don't you send me some songs? So I sent him Sail Away, which ended up being our first big collaboration. Well, massive. I guess second. But yeah, so that song, especially in France, has done really well. And yeah, so we just started a relationship from there.
Wow. Okay. So, and it all happened just because you're like, hey, I'm not getting paid. Like, what's
pretty
going
much
on here?
Pretty much.
How funny. Okay. So then you decided writing together, and then so this whole record I was reading was done pretty much like virtually, right?
Right. So Sail Away was as well.
Okay.
What's interesting, I guess, was pre-COVID, we were actually already very comfortable remotely working.
Oh, okay.
So we've never worked together. Yeah. So we've never worked together in person.
Interesting.
We were in a studio once, and he showed me a demo. That was it. Like, we never actually worked on anything. So yeah, it's been interesting to work with this dynamic, because I don't know, I guess we can't even vibe or feel each other's energies or talk about the songs in person, or write like, normal people actually collaborate, especially coming from the songwriting session loop. So it's basically just, we would just send each other ideas and then send them back and be done with it. And that's how we wrote the entire record.
Wow. And then the project's called Flashback FM, or is that the record?
The project is called Flashback FM. I believe the record will also be called that. Yeah.
Flashback FM. Okay.
Yeah.
And the whole thing done completely virtually. And did you start writing the album pre-COVID? So you were like ahead of everybody else doing Zoom writing sessions?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually never did. Like we didn't even contact each other like via Zoom or phone or anything like that, because there also is a significant language barrier still between us.
Oh.
So even in email, sometimes we'll use Google Translate to translate whole paragraphs and stuff like that, just because his English is, it's better than my French, I'll say that, but we don't communicate that way.
Sure. That's interesting. So you would send each other bits and pieces of songs?
Yeah. And then just hope we like what came out of it. I know we sort of have similar influences. I've always loved the French sound and French touch and French house. And he naturally just has that. So it's worked more like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, we feel each other, and that's why we work together. We know where we're coming from.
Right.
So we don't even need to talk to each other.
Yeah, you just kind of understand where he's headed and vice versa.
Right.
That's interesting. Well, but you have met each other in person
yes.
at one time. So going back and forth with the songs, this was a project that had started before COVID even began?
Yeah. The idea of it, at least, that we were going to do something, COVID, I guess the start of COVID's around February. So we had just put out Sail Away that past November, I believe.
Okay. So you released Sail Away right before
2020.
COVID. Okay.
Yeah. And then at that point, we're like, hey, well, we were already sharing demos. I actually think it was post-COVID when we decided let's do this project.
Was it because the success of Sail Away?
Partly, but also because after Sail Away, we had already come together with about four or five demos that were pretty solid and had, I guess, a similar feeling to them. And at that point, where we were wondering how we're going to release it, we thought maybe we'll do a band together, do a proper band, but it seemed too complicated because I think that's where we had our differences, was how just the band dynamic. Also, we couldn't like be together. So we thought it would be better, let's just do like separate artists, but one project.
Right.
Yeah.
With COVID, do you feel like that helped kind of propel the project at all, since now you and him are both probably stuck at home?
Yeah. So we are already working remotely, so we already had that going for us. So I think maybe we had a head start,
sure,
on that working method. So that was good. It has taken. We did have plans that had to be canceled.
Okay.
So he was going to come here for a video. I was going to go there for a video. And so we had to come up with ways to, for social media, for videos, how to put, video content out. So we were able to find digital people who could put out the video for God It Made. That director is also putting together the video for our next single. And then for our live, we want to do a lot of live video. We were planning to do a lot of live video, but since we couldn't come together, we were able to film the entire album remotely and then have a director sort of stitch it together to look like we were performing together.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys did the whole record and you're putting out different bits and pieces of it? Like, tell me about that.
So the entire thing's done already.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then just recently we shot the live video for the entire thing. So I did mine in LA and he did his in Paris. And then we shot it, several times. And then we've had a director come together and stitch it together. So
like per song, like, cause you've released Moves. That was the most recent one. So like Moves will be that whatever's like wherever that fell on the set, that piece of it's coming out as the video.
Yeah. So there were some differences on how the song should be released and what order and stuff like that. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's like, is there, I mean, obviously you said COVID, smash some of your plans as far as the project goes. But was there a plan to have him come out to the States, or you go to France or vice versa, and do like a tour or do shows?
Yeah, so there's already been plans set for a tour. It'll probably start in France just because we have our biggest base there.
Right.
We don't have, I think it was late 2021, but we don't know exactly what's going to go on and what's going to happen. We would love to play. That was one of our biggest focuses from the start, was to have this cool live show put together. But yeah, we have to wait like everybody else to see what's going to happen.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, talked about, when's the record coming out? When's the full album coming out?
So I believe it's coming out early next year.
Okay.
There have been some changes just with the release of everything. And then also, like, we also have to wait. It's not just us that has to wait. We have to wait on the companies and the distributor because of COVID.
Oh, right.
So things are changing all the time. Our aim is to be early, maybe February, something like that. And then hopefully maybe there's some progress with COVID or something like that. Maybe we'll tour later in the year.
Uh-huh.
If not, we'll find a way to do videos or live content, so people can see us perform, or connect with us that way.
Sure. Do you enjoy the live aspect of it? I mean, because you weren't really like a solo artist, so to speak, like as far as touring, were you, prior to?
No,
I feel like you're more the behind the scenes guy.
I am way more comfortable as a behind the scenes guy. I would say it is fun to play live and to feel that energy.
Uh-huh.
Last year I performed. I didn't mention I did go to France again to perform Sail Away.
Okay.
Møme did like a finale show of his tour, and there were like, I don't know, 2,000 people in the crowd.
That's
so
cool.
The biggest crowd I had gone up to that point was maybe like 30.
Oh wow! From 30 to 2,000. That's quite a jump.
It was surreal. The energy, and you can just feel people. So it was great. It was fun. It was crazy. I don't know if that was my favorite. That's my favorite thing to do.
Uh-huh.
But it's pretty cool to see people, in person, singing along, that kind of thing. So it's gratifying in that way, I'd say. Yeah.
Totally. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. I do have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah. So I would say do something that actually moves you, and do something that you actually love. I would say, I think if you have the goal, this is just coming from my personal experience, if you have the goals of maybe fame or money or those things, maybe you'll get them. But I think the most fulfilling experience is if you're doing something that you really love, and just keep pursuing the thing that you love, because even if it doesn't succeed, at least you're doing something that you love.